We're going to bring in now our business editor, Charles Pellegrin, to take a look at the economic factors behind the fall of Bashar al-Assad's regime. First of all, Charles, then, give us a bit of a sense of what the Syrian economy looks like today. What's the scale of the damage that's been done after a decade, let's not forget, of course, a civil war?
Stuart, the Syrian economy wasn't in great shape at the start of the 2010s when opposition to al-Assad really started ramping up, but it was stable at least. The government held a big place in the market, while some sectors like telecommunications were in the hands of a wealthy minority of businessmen, notably Rami Makhlouf, who supported the regime. In 2011, annual GDP increased by 2.9%, but once the war started, economic activity plummeted. According to the World Bank, GDP contracted by 26.3% for 2 years in a row in 2012 and 2013, and never really recovered. Actual growth returned in 2018, but at that point, the World Bank reclassified Syria as a low-income country, and the losses seen in the beginning of the decade were never recovered. GDP had collapsed by more than half.
So what exactly then, Charles, is behind those numbers?
Human lives. People are the ones that contributed to economic activity, and the human toll has led to an economic one. According to the Syrian Center for Policy Research, there have been as many as 500,000 people killed in the war in Syria, and 1.5 million who've been left disabled. Then there are those displaced by the fighting who've had to leave behind their lives and livelihood, the 5 million or so refugees who left the country, and the 6.2 million people internally displaced. And then there's the material damage. A third of the country's real estate, whether residential or commercial, has been destroyed or damaged.
So what is left then there, Charles, in terms of economic activity?
Well, even Syrian people's savings have been destroyed. Many of them kept them in the Lebanese banking sector, which collapsed in 2019. The Syrian pound plummeted. You needed over around 500 pounds to get $1 in 2019, and that's now gone up to over 13,000 pounds. That's almost a over 2,400% increase in 5 years. The weakening of the currency has led to skyrocketing inflation for essential goods and to long lines just to get a loaf of bread or fuel, which weren't as heavily subsidized as they once were on account of the currency devaluation. So the cash-strapped Assad regime was forced to grasp at any potential revenue streams it could put its hands on, taking control of telecommunications company Syriatel from the country's wealthiest man at the time, Rami Makhlouf. It also turned to the black market. According to the U.S. State Department, the regime became one of the world's leading producers of the illegal amphetamine known as Captagon, according to some sources even being responsible for 80% of the world's supply. So a new generation of oligarchs appeared, making money off of racketeering and contraband to avoid international sanctions.
So apart from narcotics, Charles, and what are the country's main exports?
In terms of agriculture, olive oil and nuts are among the top products for export. And another export here is phosphorus, which is used to make fertilizer. It used to be a huge source of revenue for the regime before 2011, but those mines were ceded to a Russian company as a favor to Vladimir Putin for providing military support to Assad. The fate of those mines is now a huge question in the political transition, as is the fate of the country's oil resources, which are located in the northeastern part of the country under control of Kurdish-led forces. Syria's ability to generate revenue for the state and its people really depends on those in power being able to share what remains of the country's wealth.
Charles, thanks very much. Charles Pellegrin with the Business Bulletin for us here on France 24.